think I found the one. Join me as I take a look at this 2026 Challenger Grande 630. So welcome back to the channel. So I'm in a Challenger 630 today. This is the new 2026 model. So last year, this model was available in the Sprite. It was a new model, but it wasn't in the 8-foot wide Grande version. It was in the Sprite range, standard width. This year, it's now moved up to the Challenger and it's 8-foot wide. It's a Grande. So as a result of that, it does feel much more spacious. We'll go around, we'll take a look. I'll have a look at the price, the weights, and I'll give you sort of my opinion on how it feels to sort of stand inside. It's always different to sort of be in a Caravan than it is to look at the photographs or videos online. But this is factory fresh, and first impressions, yeah, it's different. It's certainly quirky, and I can see it's going to appeal to families or those wanting more space, lots of lounging area, lots of dining area, etc. But we'll have a look around. Let's go. Just a few things to point out first then. So this has got the new Truma blown air heating. I'm going to talk about that a little more as we sort of work through this review. So we'll talk about that later, but the benefit of this, it's much quicker at heating up water, particularly if you're wanting to have a shower, etc. Those times to heat the water have reduced. You have got the command system. Looks very neat there on that panel. Yeah, I much prefer the new command style system to the one that we have, which is a sort of, it's starting to show its age now. This is sort of in keeping with sort of smartphones and how they look. The door, you've got sort of a smaller window still. It still isn't as large as perhaps that we've got on the 2023 Conqueror, but this is in line with the other ranges. So with the Sprite, Challenger, and I noticed as well the same door window size in the Conqueror. Moving through into the front lounge, this is the selling point. You've got this huge L-shaped lounge. One of the things I really like about this area, it's really bright, really light. Note that there's a larger window over on this side, on the off side, and on the near side, you've got a window as well. So the reason I point that out, a lot of these vans that have, these Caravans that have these L-shaped lounges, tend to have just a wall on one of the sides rather than a window. So they just have wall boards, and it's there for generally for sort of mounting a TV. I get that, I understand it's obviously the obvious place to have a wall mounted TV like you might have at home, but it does limit the light that's let in, and we always tend to sort of look out of the near side. I don't know why, when we're sat in our van, everything sort of seems to happen off the near side. You've got your awning off there. As son, when he's playing, it tends to sort of be in that direction, probably because how we pitch on Caravan and Motorhome Club sites. So you have to pitch in a certain way, so that's probably why that occurs. So yeah, it's good to see that. Great big window there as well. Reminds me of the little Eldest Explorers, the 304s with the big window to the side. So that, yeah, this is the selling point, or one of the selling points of this Caravan, is this area. The actual upholstery itself is really light. It's sort of, yeah, it's like a beige colour. Feels nice to the touch. It sort of doesn't feel harsh. It's nice and soft. And one of the upgrades with the upholstery now is it's actually sprung, which is a big upgrade in sort of my experience with Swift upholstery, because we haven't had sprung in our last three. And yeah, we've often when we've gone in other vans, Baileys for example, that have got sprung upholstery, you start to sort of feel that, yeah, you wish you had it. So I think that's good. I think it's definitely an improvement. The colour, we probably have to put some throws on it just because we've got a small dog and I've got a 6-year-old child. So yeah, it wouldn't, a bit of tomato sauce, chocolate or something falling on there, and yeah, it probably would stain. But I get it, it's light, it's there for a reason to make it feel spacious, and that certainly does work. Also got this to the side as well, so it wraps round, which is, again, it just makes it a little bit different to the usual. Some people like these types of lounges, some people prefer the traditional seating. I think I'm somewhere in the middle, really. I think it depends on the actual Caravan itself. This works well on 8-foot models. Obviously, when you've got standard width 7'5", 7'6", it's probably too compromised to have this style of seating. In terms of the wall pads, then, yeah, relatively sort of neutral. Little bit of pattern to them, sort of not offensive. A blue colour, and then sort of a blue sort of grey curtain to the front. So they do keep the curtains on the front. I know some people like the curtains, some people don't, so you've got the mix, but it does look relatively modern, relatively fresh in this front area. In terms of the sunroof, it's a nice wide sunroof, so it's filling that space, letting in lots of light, and then you've got the roof light above as well. In terms of cupboard space, you've got the usual sort of corner style cupboards, so they are handy. You can still fit a relative amount of things in there. You've got the stereo in this cupboard, so you've perhaps not got as much storage in the front as you perhaps would like. This side here has a slightly longer locker. It's not got the door to contend with, so they've got a bit more space there. So yeah, it's just on the near side where you're losing that little bit of storage, I guess. However, you have got this unit here just to the side where you've got basket storage, and you've got some storage underneath as well, so that's useful. And that looks to be the natural position to put the TV. So there's no bracket, however, you sit it on there, and you've got the USB-A, USB-C, you've got your TV aerial, 12 volt, 240, and then you've got your charging pad as well, USB-A, USB-C on there. So this is quite family orientated. I feel that there's been some thought put into how a family might use this van. You've got iPads plugged in, charging phones, you've got the TV out. So in poor weather, this would be a relatively nice place to sort of relax if you're not planning on going out. You could spend time in here, and I don't think it'd feel too compromised. You might have noticed this in the floor, so this sort of area here where the table pushes into, so that's where the table secures. That hasn't got a cap or anything to cover this as standard. I did ask if it comes with something just to pop in there, and it doesn't. I'm sure if you went on eBay, on Amazon, you'd be able to find something that would fit just to cover that up. Because if you had pets, for example, they're potentially going to sort of keep stepping into that, and it's just a little bit of a trip hazard. So it would have been nice to just have something that made that flush. I think the actual plate itself isn't an issue. However, that sort of area there could have done with something just to cover that, if you can just see. It might not be the end of the world, but my first observation would be that would have been something to consider from a Swift perspective. You've got storage here under the front, just underneath, so you can put your things under there, and you've got this area here as well. So lots of storage in terms of sort of stashing things away. If you've got your duvets, etc., stuff for making the bed, you've got plenty in that area. So I think the front of this, looking at this as we stood here now, is a winner. Before we move on to the rest of the van, there's possibly only one criticism that I find, yeah, a little distracting, and it's probably the same for me in respect to the new Sprite range, where there is sort of plastic molded trim that hasn't got the fixtures and fittings in place, so it looks obvious that it's missing. So if you look in the Sprites, for example, you've got the you've not got speakers, but they've still got the speaker holes. And here you've got this moulding, which has basically got the moulding for the extra lights that go on. So ours has got extra lights. Some other models, I think the Challenger exclusive had the extra lights of last year. The Elegance has them, so it would be nice to have a specific molded piece. Again, it's probably cost, but it sort of looks like, yeah, something's missing. I'd probably want whatever's missing there just to make it look like it was, you know, it was full. That sort of void, I find distracting. I don't know if the curtains pull across far enough to cover that or not, but no, that's as far as they go. So yeah, it's a small observation, not the end of the world, but that's the lounge area. There's lots to see in this van. It's a big Caravan. We'll spin round now and we'll look at the dinette area. So again, this makes up into a good sized bed. I'll put all the dimensions on overlaid on the actual video itself so you can have a look. But in terms of sitting space, relaxing space, sleeping space, there's definitely sort of that in this Caravan. So here you've got the table. This has come from factory like this, so it's obviously not set, but you've got the table for the dinette. This sets into a good size bed. You definitely get 2 children in there easily, the size of that. It's sort of like a large sort of single, small, double sort of size. Again, same fabric, really nice, soft to touch. Nice big window. You've got the wall pads, you've got some good storage with the lockers. So again, storage in this Caravan, seating area in this Caravan, sleeping areas in this Caravan is in abundance. I think this will be a really popular van with families, and that's before we sort of move on to the price of this as well. So that's that dinette area. We'll spin round then slightly over into the kitchen. So you're always going to have a compromise with any Caravan. No Caravan's going to be perfect. And I think here, the compromise is probably the kitchen in terms of the space that you've got. So the kitchen's probably got no extra space than, say, the Alpine 4, the Sprite exclusive Alpine 4, the Challenger 500 that we looked at, the 26 model, on one of my previous vlogs. So you probably are going to want this lift up extension at the side here, just to have that extra room. Obviously it blocks the door, however, you know, once everyone's in, that's not going to be too much of an issue. But yeah, that's the compromise that I think you're going to have to make in this Caravan. But it's still spec'd, so it's still got a reasonable level of spec. You've still got the dual fuel hob on here, which you'd expect sort of from a Challenger range Caravan. You've got the microwave just above here. You've got this style trim, which to me is a Sprite style trim, with 240 volt sockets. You've got a light switch on there as well. But it is a handy place, sort of when you're sort of busy doing things, you can sort of stick your phone on there and it's out the way. It's not going to get wet, it's not going to get damaged. So it is useful, regardless of sort of that observation with the Sprite. You have got a nice big cutlery drawer, so lots of space in there. It's very similar to ours, to be honest with you, so you get lots of stuff in. And then you've got cupboards underneath, pull-out baskets, and you've got some storage there. So things like your pans, etc., there's going to be no issue in storing those. As we come over here, you've got some storage underneath the cooker, and then just to the side, you've got the full length, so the tall fridge freezer. It is a Thetford unit, so again, my preference is Dometic, but these are, you know, they're still relatively nice. Out of the two, I'd choose a Dometic, but I guess from a price point of view, these I assume must be slightly better value, but there's plenty of room in there. So for a family, or if you're away for you know, more than a couple of weeks, you've got lots of space. And then the freezer is, yeah, a little bit larger than the Dometic that we have, and the one I looked at in the Conqueror 580 very recently, in my latest upload. So that's the Thetford fridge freezer. And then just above the sink area, you've got some storage in there for plates, mugs. You've also got the solar charger controller as well. So yeah, in that respect, it's probably very average in terms of storage, but definitely not on the lower side. It's more than enough, but probably just not as big as some of the Caravans that have a more generous kitchen area, that have sort of got a focus on the kitchen. The focus in this Caravan clearly is about the people in it, with it being lots of room for sleeping, lots of room for relaxing. So that's the kitchen. It's relatively bright. You've got the roof light above, but I guess if you wanted to put some air conditioning in place, you would lose that. So that's just something to consider, whether or not you'd have air conditioning put elsewhere, because you probably wouldn't want to lose that, because that will make this potentially a dark area. Okay, so we'll move through into the washroom. So this is a centre washroom style Caravan. Shower to the right hand side, and then you've got your there we go, your toilet in here, and you've also got your sink, so everything that you're going to need. These, yeah, that would have been nice to see. Just instant observation as I walk through into here. Would have been nice to see those with fronts on. I know they're not particularly deep. They are lipped, which is a bonus, but you're just not going to be able to keep anything in there in transit. So that's a shame. And that could have been maybe mirrored as well, just to extend that mirror across. Would have just brightened that up a little bit. But yeah, it's got everything you need. It's got I do like this. We've got this in ours. I prefer this to what's in the Challenger. However, it's just not very deep. So I understand why, not the Challenger, sorry, the Conqueror, the previous review that I did, the in-depth review, it is slightly deeper. And as a result of that, I think people probably will prefer it. But aesthetically, this is much nicer. It is slightly dark. That's because it's only got a small roof light. One of the observations I made before I started this vlog, I had a quick look around. I don't know why Swift do this. I really don't, because they do. This roof light is available with fly screen, or it's available with fly screen and blind. There's not an awful lot of difference in the price. And I know this because in our Conqueror, we had this exact issue, and I purchased through this store here 2 new roof lights with blinds, and I basically just had the inside part that had the blinds in, because I couldn't get hold of the blinds separately and I wanted them new. So I essentially, it cost quite a lot really to say that it's only a blind that I wanted, but then I repackaged them back together and resold them, so they were useful to someone else who was actually doing a van conversion, and they didn't mind it didn't have the blinds. So I recouped a very small amount of that back. It was negligible. But yeah, so think about it, it's summer, it's getting light at 4:30 in the morning, and you'll see why it's going to be an issue further in a moment when I sort of come out into this corridor area of the washroom. But yeah, it's 4:30 in the morning, the sun's coming up, you go to the toilet and it's literally going to feel like a floodlight, even with that across. If you've got children, it's going to wake them. It's probably going to either sort of startle you. You're going to sort of seeing stars really with the how bright that's going to be, or it's just going to wake you and you're just going to struggle to get back to sleep. So yeah, that's one letdown I think with the design of this. That I'm surprised they're not using the units with the blinds in. I get it. It's a washroom, so you're not. The door's shut, you're not in there all the time, but still, if you go to the toilet in the morning in the summer, and every time we go away in the summer in ours, I always mention the fact that I'm so glad that we did that we changed them over. And it compounds the issue further that you've got exactly the same roof light here. So again, the issue that you've got with this, and we're going to come on to the bedroom shortly, is that it's adjacent to the bedroom. So you're going to have that with pouring light. Even I pull that across just to show it doesn't reduce the light an awful lot. Maybe, you know, there's a 30%, something like that, but it's still bright. And then you've got the bed just here. So you have got a screen to pull across, but would you really do that if you've got children, or if you were a couple and you didn't have I can't imagine that gets pulled across an awful lot, or you would pull it across. So the first thing I'd have to do when speccing this Caravan is go up to the store, order a couple new roof lights, and when it goes through for its PDI, just ask the guys to change the fronts for me. And it's just an extra cost, but I think Swift should consider ceasing to use these, because I don't think really that they're suitable for family caravans, or any caravan really, where you don't want to be up at 4:30 in the morning in the summer months. So that's just an observation that I made, and probably one of the greatest negatives of this Caravan really. It's you know, it's not the end of the world, but it's you're probably going to want to do something about it. And if you want to do something on the cheap, I've seen people sort of cutting out pieces of cardboard and sticking them in. But if you're spending near on £35,000 on a new Caravan, do you want to have a, you know, Kellogg's cereal box sort of stuffed in there? Not really. You want it to be, you know, look smart and fit for purpose. So into the shower area, it's got this nice black finished folding shower screen. Do like that, nice and modern. It isn't a one-piece unit. I do think that's the letdown with Swift design. It's a shame as well that they don't use. It's just there's a lot of seals and there's a lot of stuff going on that actually could be simplified and prevent further issues just by having a one-piece sealed unit. So yeah, it's a nice size shower, plenty of room in there. But if I was going to critique this, and it's all about constructive criticism, if I was going to critique this, it would be nice if it was just a one-piece unit. But yeah, you're not going to struggle for space in there. I do like the centre washroom design. It really does work quite nicely. And then if I just come back, you can see you can shut that door, and then you've sealed that off. The only negative is on this side. It's not a solid door. It's the sort of pull-out concertina style. So we've got this in ours. Very rarely use it. I don't know if I can pan out really. I've got the GoPro on wide, so it's as, there we go, it's as wide as I can get it. But yeah, that's fine if you're just a couple or with your kids. If you've got someone staying over with you, you probably would have them in the front anyway. But I don't feel sort of totally enclosed sort of in this area as you would if you had a door. But the door is going to cause issues because then it needs more space, or a slider is going to need more space. It's going to have to go somewhere. So it's one less thing to go wrong in that respect. It's less weight, of course. But yeah, that's the centre washroom. Relatively spacious. Like as with the rest of the van, it feels vast. As you can see, just sort of as I pan back through there, this is not a small Caravan, being a Grande. Right, I'm going to spin round as we go through into the bedroom area. So this for me is the quirk. This is a quirky Caravan. I spotted this last year in the Sprite. So it was a standard width then, it wasn't the Grande, and they had this in the range. And I'll do a piece to camera and talk about that at the end. And I was interested then to see what the Caravan looked like, but at the time we were we'd moved house, as I've said, we were renovating the house, and I'd not had an awful lot of time to sort of look at vlogging, possibly fell out of love with it a little. So I wasn't doing much, I wasn't going to the dealer as much, or the dealers, and yeah, I didn't get to see it in person, hadn't been to the NEC that year. Whereas obviously this year it's been relaunched in the Challenger. I thought, yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing that just for this particular quirk that it has. And the reason it's a quirk, it's a French bed. So a French bed basically means it's got a slight cut off. You often see this in compact Caravan designs. So Caravans that essentially you're short on space. You need to still fit a reasonable size small double bed. So the way you get around it, so you can still walk around the Caravan, you can still fit washrooms in, etc., is you have a cut off, so it angles in. So it's not, as you can see, it's wide at the top, and down here it tapers. And they do taper to varying levels. So if you look at a Bailey, for example, their French beds are very different to Swift French beds in terms of how severe this is. Motorhomes sometimes, again, can be more severe in the angle. So I wanted to see how severe it was. That was the first thing. Could you still get two people in? And I also wanted to sort of try and understand why Swift went down this route. And what I mean by that is, why didn't they just push everything towards the front of the van a little bit, shorten things down slightly, and then stick an island bed essentially, so the headboard against the back, little bit like maybe a Challenger 560 or a Conqueror 560 as it was before it was discontinued, and I think in the Elegance it will be the Elegance 850. So something along those lines, rather than sort of putting a French bed in. And yeah, I think the reason for that, looking at this Caravan, they wanted the living space to be as large as possible, to be as generous as possible. And as a result of that, the compromises are probably in the kitchen. And if you call it a compromise, in the bedroom. I think it's a minor compromise. So what they've done, they've put a transverse French bed in the back of this Caravan, which, having seen this now in person, I've been in this Caravan for probably about 45 minutes now, I think it does work. There is a negative to French beds, and that is essentially whoever's here, whoever's sleeping on the, what I call the locked in side against the wall, you've got to climb over the person this side, or in this instance you have got some room at the end to come round, but you've essentially one way or another got to scoot down the bed, or you've got to climb over. So that is one thing to bear in mind. It is a slight negative, but as I've said before, caravanning is about compromise. You can't have everything because it'd cost too much, it'd weigh too much, and you wouldn't fit it all in. So you have to decide where those compromises are. So if you can live with the fact that potentially one of the individuals who are sleeping here has to climb over, and maybe one of you is slightly shorter, so if you were both 6 foot plus, this probably isn't going to be any good unless you want a foot hanging off the bed or a leg hanging off the bed constantly. But generally in couples, you probably have one of you who's slightly shorter and one will probably be able to comfortably sleep here. There are companies out there that do extensions that fit essentially underneath the mattress, and you have a small section that fits on, that squares off the mattress. The downside to those is they are extremely expensive, and if you go to the NEC, you'll probably see them there. They often have them in some of the vans as demos. They are very expensive, in some cases as much as a new mattress. But if you were really adamant that was a problem, you wanted to solve it, and this Caravan was for you, you could do that. However, it might not be a problem, and this might work because there are lots of other sleeping places in this Caravan also. There's lots of storage. You've got a wardrobe, as per usual. I've already moved in. Your aerials in the back. You've got cupboard underneath, you've got some power on this side. The 240 volt. This is the example I was giving when I did the Conqueror at 580 in-depth review. They now have pull-out drawers. We've got something similar to this in our 23 Conqueror. You tend to find stuff gets pushed to the back, and you'll probably find that weeks and weeks later you're still looking for something and it ends up there. You've got these side pockets. For putting your phone in there, gadgets, etc., because you have got USB charging. It is USB-A on these light fittings, so you can charge your phones. They are Velcro on. It's good that you've got them, but they look very much an add-on than part of the Caravan. But I suppose I'd take them than not have it there at all. You've got lots of storage above. So the Pro here, lots of storage. You have got a shelf there as well, or 2 shelves. With those shelves, they are very slightly lipped, so you can get things in there. And you've got lockers at the back. However, again, similar to the French bed, issue with sleeping. French beds also have issues in relation to accessing lockers, because you generally have to climb over the bed to get to the lockers. And I know that because we had a Swift Freestyle, which is a dealer special, Alpine 4, and we had that issue. You basically, if someone's in bed relaxing watching TV and you need something that's up there, you're climbing over. So that's something to bear in mind. But again, is it a compromise worth having? You've got a window there. I really like the fact you can sort of sit in bed looking out the window, unless of course you've got a big awning and then you're looking into the awning. So there is a downside to the window there if you had an awning on. And then just here you've got nice big mirror. So this would be the natural sort of hair drying space. This is where Beck, my wife, would use to get ready. You've got 240 volts, and you've also got the opportunity for a TV with TV aerial 12 volt. I would have liked to have seen just some feedback for Swift, like they've done with the Conqueror that I was looking at on my last vlog, the in-depth review of the Conqueror 580. I would have really liked to have seen a TV bracket, probably somewhere there, so you can have it up on that dead space, that dead area, so when you're in bed you can be watching TV if you wanted to, if that's something you do on holiday. We don't always use our TV, to be honest with you. It's generally only in the winter months, but that would have been the perfect location. So if it was my Caravan, I would probably upgrade the roof lights, the two in the washroom, to have blinds, and I would have a TV bracket somewhere in that region. But how it would be put there, how I could have it, I'm not sure. Whether or not it could go on here, I'm not sure. It might need some reinforcement, but you'd have to speak to your dealer, speak to the salesman, they can speak to the technicians. But yeah, that's a missed opportunity for me. That would have been nice for the little extra cost that it would have been. So yeah, that is a shame. Just in here is your table. That's where that's stored. So it has got a designated space, which is good. It's always good when you've got somewhere to put them away. If it's not in the wardrobe, ours is in the wardrobe, and it does tend to get in the way in there, because when it's full of clothes, you're sort of clambering through to get the table out, and it always ends up pulling everything out with it. So this Caravan, in sort of conclusion, it's large, it's very spacious. It's grande, it's 8 foot wide. There is so much seating, so much living space, lots of sleeping space. It's very light and bright, probably too bright at night with those roof lights. Compromises being French bed and the kitchen area. However, I would say in general, for what you're getting here in terms of bang for buck, in terms of usability, the compromises that have been made to achieve this layout, I think, are minimal. And depending on sort of your views on French beds, of course, and how much you love cooking. So I'm just going to spin back round now. We can do a piece to camera just to finish up with some more info on this. But hopefully you found it useful. I was really, really intrigued by this Caravan. And to be honest with you, I think I've had to sort of sit down and have a think myself. Would I trade some of the bells and whistles that I've got on the Conqueror to have more space and to have this sort of amount of usability in all weathers? Because this would make a great all year van. We'll come on to the heating when we do the piece to camera. I don't know. I would say this is potentially my favourite Caravan in the current lineup. And by the current lineup, I mean across the whole ranges. And that's inclusive of Sprite, that's inclusive of the Challenger, Conqueror and the Elegance. There's just something really intriguing, something really quirky, something really innovative about this Caravan, where Swift have actually thought about the user, how they're going to use the Caravan, and yeah, they've just somehow managed to get a lot of furniture, a lot of stuff in here without making it feel like you're on, everything's on top of each other. But it's 8 foot wide, so I guess that's where that sort of bonus is, that they've got that room to play with. So yeah, I'll just flick back over. So yeah, this Caravan it's took me by surprise. I really didn't think that I'd potentially be not interested in the Caravan, but it wouldn't have blown me away, just because it just didn't seem on paper to have the spec that would do that. But being in here and looking at the space is making me question, would I benefit from more space in the Caravan? The issue that I have at home is I store the Caravan at home, and although I have got the space for a twin axle 8 foot wide Caravan, the access to that space is relatively narrow, so I can only get at the moment a standard width Caravan, so my Caravan's 7'6", down the side of the house to the storage area where I keep the Caravan. So for this I'd have to sort of probably make some alterations either to the garage or to the fence, so I'd have to spend some money there to get an 8 foot Caravan down the side. So that's potentially would stop me in my tracks straight away if I got any ideas. Wanted to talk about a few things in relation to this Caravan, just in terms of specs, etc., and I'll stick them on the screen just to make life easier. This Caravan has got the Truma Combi Neo. So we have not really got into this, and it was deliberate that I didn't speak about this when I was going around the Caravan and showing you around, because I wanted to go into it in some detail. I wanted to just check my notes. So the 2025 Challenger did have Alder heating, which basically Alder is wet central heating. It's like at home. You've got, apologies if this is back to basics, but for anyone who doesn't know, you've got pipes and sort of fins around the Caravan that radiate heat. The benefit of that is it emulates the heating at home. It's more gradual to warm, so don't expect it to be instant. Have a bit of patience with it. But once it does reach temperature, it holds temperature better. It's less erratic, and it probably, for winter caravanning for 12 months of the year, if you're all seasons, would probably serve you really well. If not, it would serve you better. I think I'm sort of skirting around that. So the 25 Challenger had Alder. The Challenger this year, and this is the Challenger Grande, doesn't. And yeah, the negative to that is, and I was thinking this as I was going around, it's a large area to heat with blown air, and we had an Alpine 4 with blown air, and within that Caravan there were cold spots which we don't get with the Alder. So you've essentially got to have the Truma Combi Neo system, and yes, that might be an effective system. So just in terms of the spec on it, hot showers after just 8 minutes of heat up time, hot water ready in just 3 minutes for washing. It's fast and energy saving heating. It's quiet, emission free when running in electric mode. Flexible operation, runs on gas, electricity or hybrid. But there's going to be lots of ducting. As you open cupboards, you can see it, corrugated style ducting. And obviously, the longer the ducting is, the air might start off really warm at the front in the unit, but as it gets to the back of the Caravan, particularly in this length of Caravan, it's a decent sized van, twin axle, it's going to lose its sort of momentum and lose the heat. So you are going to probably end up with that bedroom area at the back, I would say, is going to be a cold area of the Caravan. And if you're sleeping as well on the French bed against that back panel, you're probably going to feel the cold, because you've not got, like with the Alder, behind the bed, the heat radiating upwards up the walls. So that's just something to bear in mind. Although, yes, it's the Truma Combi Neo, it's the new system, I do think that the Swift have missed a trick with taking Alder away. But again, it's about compromise, it's about cost, it's about balance. So that's something to consider in that respect. In terms of the Challenger Grande spec highlights, so it's got half diamond cut alloy wheels. I've noticed that this season that the diamond wheels have shrunk in sort of the diamond cut. They're only halfway now. I don't see that as a bad thing, because if you need to refurb those wheels and you've not got the diamond cut to the edge, then that's possibly going to make life a little bit easier for you when you are going to get them repaired, because you can obviously paint them rather than having to get them on a CNC machine, which I'm just having a look now to see where the diamond cut is, because, and I'll pop it up on the screen just so you can see, because actually it's still not going to be, I don't think, looking at that, much better for repairing, because if it was painted to the edge, now it's diamond cut to the edge. And if you are going to curb the alloys, I did see a Dutch Caravan when we were in Cornwall, and yeah, it sent shudders down my spine. He literally went round a roundabout, took it really tight and went up the curb, and then the alloy dropped onto the curb and scuffed all the alloy. Now, if that was painted, it's easier to repair. If it's diamond cut and you want it doing to factory with the sort of lines in that it creates, you're going to have to get it on a CNC machine, and they are more expensive to get repaired that way. So yeah, it's not the end of the world, but yeah, they have gone to half diamond cut now, but the diamond cut is on the outer edge, so that's not going to help in that respect, so forget that one. It's got the roof mounted 120 watt solar panel, so it's still got a solar panel, great if you're in storage. Whether 120 watt over winter is enough to keep your battery topped up, you might want to take the battery out, take it home, but still, it's got the solar panel. It's got an external barbecue point, It's got the wireless phone charging pad, which I think just should come standard in any Caravan now. I know there's a cost to them, but everyone's got a device now that it needs charging, and the fact it's got USB A and C in there as well as the wireless capability is useful. And then it says the highlight as well of the range is atmospheric lounge and kitchen lighting. So that would be interesting to see how this lights up at night, just because it's a large van and you would want some sort of customizable lighting in here to sort of make it feel homely. Otherwise it could feel dark. You wouldn't want it to feel too stark and bright, but you want to be able to customize that. So you can do that through the command panel, of course, but it'd be interesting to see where it is in the Caravan. I'll see if I can find a photograph of it in the evening at night, and I'll upload it onto over the vlog. And then in terms of bed sizes, so I was quite impressed with this. I'll pan round shortly and just show you what I've just discovered. So I should have probably pressed and poked and messed around a little more before the vlog, but the dinette does actually pull out further still with sort of extra sprung support. It's quite large. It's a lot. The bed's a lot bigger than I initially thought. So should have to be more sort of robust with my reviewing. Should have had a play with that. In terms of bed sizes, then front double in this is 7'5" by 4'3". So that's what I'm sort of sat on now. What would become the bed. The rear double is 6'3" by 4'6", and then the side offside, the offside dinette here is 6'3" by 4'8". So these are all generous size sleeping areas. So in terms of space, in terms of family, whether or not you just want a permanent eating area that you'll never use as a bed, you love the L-shaped lounge, or you actually need the areas for sleeping, you're not going to be in a position where you've not got that capability to get all the family in. So obviously that's why Swift advertise this as a 6 berth, because it genuinely is, and you can see that once you're in here. So yeah, it's got lots of space. It's relatively well spec'd. I do feel that there's a trick been missed with the Alder. That's a shame. The roof lights probably do need blinds. I think you're going to have to do something with that if you buy this Caravan. I prefer Dometic fridge freezers to Thetford, but it's not the end of the world. It's still a tall, full-length fridge freezer. The origin of this comes from the Sprite. This was in 2025. So this is where this Caravan sort of, I first saw this, but advertised, never saw it in the flesh. Was the 2025 Sprite Quattro MB, but that was only a standard width. So I'm sure there's some of those popping around. Be interested to see if there's anyone that's got that and they're thinking of swapping it for this to have the wider version of it. So yeah, it's a nice Caravan. In terms of weights, that's something that you're going to have to consider. So it's not a light Caravan. So 1,781 MTPLM in terms of kilograms, and max payload 180. So reasonable payload, but you're going to have a decent sized tow car to pull this. That's something to consider. And then you've got the 8 foot wide debate. So is 8 foot wide appropriate for you? Something I'd have to think about again if I was looking at this Caravan, where we have been the last couple of times in Cornwall, St Ives area. It's been very tight at times. Not tight to the point where you're going to damage the Caravan, but where you're going to scratch the Caravan up on all the sort of shrubs, bushes, trees at the side. So, you know, you sometimes you've got very little sort of room between you and the trees or bushes. So people who've got an 8 foot wide Caravan tell me that it's no big deal, Ollie. It's fine. You get used to it. But yeah, you've got to have to think about where you holiday. Is it appropriate for the campsites that you go to? But if you're looking for a family van that can sleep 6, a couples van that's just got bags and bags of seating areas, relaxing zones, then yeah, this is a really compelling, I think, offering from Swift. It is. I've thought about this a little further in between the takes, And I think this is probably, of what I've seen so far this season, my favourite Caravan, I think, of the Swift range. I just like the fact it's quite brave. I like the fact that it's just all out for fitting as much in as you can. If you want him bang for buck, the Challenger Grande 630, it's up there. It's not, in 2026, some of the prices can seem intimidating. Some of the prices can seem difficult to justify. But with the amount of Caravan that you're getting here for your money, I don't think I wouldn't say that it's excessively priced. I think it's bang on the money, really, in terms of a twin axle Caravan, 8 foot wide, sleeps 6, has a reasonable spec. Alda, sorry, would have been the cherry on the cake. But the RRP on the Swift website is 33,945. So yeah, it's just something to think about if you need lots of space and you know, you still want a reasonable level of spec. And the Challenger brand is still highly regarded. It's a highly regarded range within Swift's caravans. So yeah, I genuinely am surprised by how I feel about this Caravan. I didn't think that I'd be sort of as impacted as I am, and I'm walking away from this sort of questioning, yeah, do I want a Challenger Grande 630? I think the answer to that is probably going to be no, based on the fact that I've got to struggle to get it down the side of the house. It's 8 foot wide, so it might compromise some of my holidays. And at the moment, I just can't justify the cost to change Caravan when I've got a relatively new Caravan at the moment. So yeah, the reality is no, but genuinely it's one of those that's got to sort of itch and think, yeah, I would quite like this amount of space when I'm away. I think it would help, particularly in winter. But then you've got the compromise then, obviously, of the blown air, which, again, for me might be an issue. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Would this Caravan work for you? Have Swift nailed it with this particular Caravan? I think so, yeah, genuinely. You might think I've had a factory reset when I went to Swift last weekend. I haven't. I literally judge every Caravan I come across on its own merit. And this has got very little to compare to because it's new in the Challenger range and there wasn't an 8 foot version last year in the Sprite. So we can't do the same sort of comparison as the Challenger to the Sprite exclusive. So this stands on its own, and it stands on its own 2 feet, and I think it does a relatively good job of that. But please like and subscribe. It does encourage me to do more of these videos, and I'll see you in the next one.